Okay, this video is all about jurisdictions, and you probably didn't think of yourself as such, but you are now a land developer. You're not too different than those big-time developers who are putting up houses left and right all over the country. These developers know the government and the departments they run, and the special little secret is that they know how to maneuver in and out and around the existing laws and codes out there. I don't necessarily like this. Sometimes I feel like a gangster or something, but it's the way the development world turns. And when you understand how to fit into land development, you become powerfully successful as a glamping developer. Okay, there are 4 levels of government, and let me list them to you and explain how you, as a glamping developer, will deal with them. First of all is the federal and state governments. We all live under these 2 governments. They don't typically get involved with land development, but they do when it affects the environmental level. My first property has the Preble's jumping mouse, an endangered species that I have to justify my development to the federal government. And my second property is on a state highway, and I had to likewise justify my access point to CDOT, the Colorado Department of Transportation. I have found federal and state governments to be relatively easy to work with. In most development cases, they don't like dealing with the state, but any approval that I've gotten may have taken longer, but it was pretty quick and easy to justify a glamping operation with the state and federal codes that I needed to live by. The second level of government is regional and county. If your property is unincorporated, you will be under county jurisdiction, and building codes may cross over county lines but remain generally within a region of land. Both of my properties are in unincorporated El Paso County, which is exactly the way I like it, and my building overseer is the Pikes Peak Regional Building Department. These governments are more involved, but glamping tends to prosper most in undeveloped areas, like kind of out of town. The bureaucrats in these governments tend to find glamping interesting, though they can make things difficult if they don't. Glampers will quite often find themselves in violation with regional and county codes, much like I've already shared with you. And be advised, it doesn't end the game when you're in violation. It may be frustrating that you have to comply, but compliance with building and county codes is worth pursuing. Now, digging even deeper down, the third level of government is the town, city, or municipality. Your property may be incorporated into a town, city, or municipality. These governments take most interest in your glamping development. Usually small lots, but it doesn't have to be. It could be large lots. They probably will resist you, but don't let that get you down. They resist everybody. And then the fourth level of government is probably the most miniature and most frustrating, and that's the homeowners association. All other governments you inherently you live under a social contract, but with an HOA, there's an actual contract. Now, I resist HOAs and I don't advise you to get involved with one, but that doesn't necessarily end the glamping game. You will have to look at your specific contract for what is allowed, the specifics that are allowed. And there are ways you can overturn or seek variances with the HOA to get an allowance for glamping. In fact, there's ways to vary from all of the code. That's why it's never really an end of the game when you get a violation. I like to say when you get dinged, well, get undinged. That might be through a variance of some sort. It's just that when you're under these jurisdictions, you got to figure that out and get undinged. So as you can see, the more localized the government, the more resistant they will be toward creativity. And this reality is kind of a downer. The good news is that glamping is a relatively new idea. So there's probably not a code specifically saying you can't do glamping. They don't have glamping clauses in their codes and laws yet. And I've learned to turn that into an advantage when sharing my intentions to the government jurisdictions. Now let me tell you about the departments that you'll be dealing with. And every one of those jurisdictions has a department of this type that you will have to deal with. I'm also going to share with you a ninja trick of persuasion so that whenever you deal with these jurisdictions or these departments, you will be able to use this ninja move and get what you want. First of all is law enforcement. I have had the police department come and question me about my glamping operation. They've always sided with me, but really our planning department did threaten the DA's office that they would submit to the DA's office, and then I would have a police officer come and actually shut me down. I know a lot of glamping operators, and I've never seen a glamping operation get that far down the rabbit hole of compliance. The second department is the building department. These deal with structural code. Our permits are public information. You typically can log into a regional building department and see all the codes that your neighbor has drawn up. So you can be a little nosy, and you can turn your neighbors in for being out of compliance with certain permits. The third department is the health department, and they're concerned about the environment or sewage and water. You might recall I had a health department yellow jacket come and inspect the septic tank that I was dumping into, and he advised me to go the commercial septic tank route. The fourth department is the traffic department. They're concerned about the county or the highway. And on my two properties, I have a county road, which is very low traveled, so it was a kind of an easy approval. But on the second property I have is actually on a CDOT, and I've had to get the State Department of Transportation involved with approving the units that I'm building over there. Also are some sort of parks or recreation department. We have a county parks department, as well as the U.S. Fish and Wildlife. I mentioned them earlier that the Preble's jumping mouse is a protected endangered species that is in our area. We needed to convince the U.S. Fish and Wildlife that the glamping operation wouldn't hinder the Preble's jumping mouse. And then there's the planning department. That sixth department is the most powerful, at least in my county. They deal with zoning and land use. So when I'm reported by a neighbor to the planning department actually comes down and gives me like that letter of violation saying we're going to shut you down if you do not comply or get a hold of the enforcement officer right away. This is overwhelming, isn't it? It may seem like you have the world against you. The law, the codes, the infrastructure, the environment, the land use, the planning, the bureaucracy. To heck with this, you might be feeling. But hold that thought. I'm a debate coach, and I have a ninja trick that I coach my students. And this is what it is. Crawl inside the head of your opponent and start viewing the world as they see it. Now, you don't have to agree with them. That's not what I'm saying. Students who study a debate resolution will side with one side personally or against it. Now, I don't mean agree or empower your opponent, but at least sympathize with them and try to understand their point of view. I say you crawl inside the head of your opponent and see the world the way they see it. And that's a ninja trick because you start talking their language. You start solving their problems. You start answering their objections, and it ultimately makes you more persuadable. This turns the bureaucrats to be your friend. If you watch my planning meeting online, you will see my planner actually say, "Cool," when he's looking at the structures that I had planned on making. It helps tremendously when you empathize with the department or jurisdiction that's over you. So keep that in mind next time you get a letter of violation. Don't react angrily. Don't jump out of your skin. Don't see the world just as you see it. Try to see the world as the law enforcement officer sees it, the building department officer sees it, the health department officer, the traffic, the parks and recreation, the planning department officer. If you can walk in their moccasins for a while and try to see how they see you, you can start to persuade them that this is a cool operation that you got going on. And then they end up becoming an advocate for your success. So those are the jurisdictions and departments that you need to become familiar with wherever you are in the country. In the next video, we're going to go into zoning districts and how to really choose the best zoning district to be a part of.